We have tropical storm warnings in effect along the North and South Carolina coastline. Good evening, I'm Mike Nasa with this Sunday night update on the tropics. We had our Hurricane Francine make landfall last Wednesday along the Louisiana coastline. A very powerful storm, a Category 2 hurricane, winds of about 100 miles per hour, moved inland and it is still kind of spinning whatever's left here alongside some high pressure over the southeastern U.S., and that is helping to push this system towards the coast, and this is a potential tropical cyclone. It is not yet a tropical storm, but because it's close enough that we need watches or warnings, they are issuing advisories on it, and it should become a tropical storm over the next 12 hours. Here's the latest on potential tropical cyclone 8 as of 11 p.m. Eastern Time from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida. It was at 32.2 north, 77.9 west, roughly. Winds of 45 miles per hour, moving very slowly northwest at 5. The pressure is only about 1,006 millibars. It is not a strong storm, but if and when it does have a definitive low level circulation, it will automatically become a tropical storm since the winds are over tropical storm force. And by the way, when it does get named, it will be named Helene. It is forecast to continue to move slowly towards the South Carolina coastline and make landfall sometime tomorrow, Monday evening, as a mid range tropical storm, and then quickly move and dissipate as it heads over areas of North Carolina and even into Virginia by the middle of the week. So it should be a pretty short lived affair. Nevertheless, we do have tropical storm warnings out from Modesto Beach, South Carolina, all the way up to Ocracoke, North Carolina, because we do have tropical storm force winds that are already beginning to impact the coastline of the Carolinas. There's the radar, and again, whatever center there is would be down in this area here, moving northwest, because the landfall should be just to the north of areas of Georgetown and just to the south of Myrtle Beach in that general vicinity. But again, most of the wet weather is to the north and east of whatever center there is. So, North Carolina, you're going to get in on the wind and the rain, but right now, definitely a soggy night there along the area there of the North and South Carolina border. Rainfall will be probably the main threat with the system. We're looking at 4 to 6 inches, maybe isolated higher amounts, even up towards Wilmington. Again, like I said, north of that center. So if the landfall occurred closer to Charleston, the heaviest rain could still be near Wilmington. And then that will spread inland even further. We do have that risk of flooding, at least a slight risk from South Carolina all the way across most of North Carolina, and then a marginal risk for areas going up all the way into Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Now, the storm surge shouldn't be much of a problem. Anywhere where you have onshore flow, you could see a water rise, and it's going to be 1 to 3 feet, but you will have waves crashing on top of that. So, rip currents, waves, I'd stay out of the water just because, you got a tropical storm developing offshore. You don't want to deal with it. But again, look at South Santee River all the way to Oregon Inlet. That includes Neuse River, Bay River, Pamlico, Pungo River, all of that, 1 to 3 feet. That is definitely some high water impacts. There's another look at the radar, and again, still some rainfall here over areas of Arkansas and the lower Mississippi, Tennessee Valley area there, all in association with our hurricane. It moved inland Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, is kind of dissipated out, but you're still dealing with some residual rainfall. It's not getting kicked out by a trough or anything because you have an area of high pressure here over the east steering things, and that's going to allow our tropical system here to head right northwest into the South Carolina coastline. The key messages for this system: number one, an area of low pressure is expected to bring impacts from tropical storm force winds to heavy rain to coastal flooding and high surf to portions of the southeast United States beginning tonight, and that will continue for a couple of days. Number two, tropical storm conditions are expected along portions of the coast of South Carolina and North Carolina in that tropical storm warning area beginning tonight. So again, 40 mile per hour sustained winds, 50 mile per hour sustained winds, higher gusts. It's pretty nasty. And finally, there is the potential for scattered flash and urban flooding and minor river flooding across eastern North Carolina, northeastern South Carolina from tonight all the way into early Tuesday. There's a risk of isolated flash and urban flooding across some of the mid-Atlantic region through Wednesday. Like I mentioned, this rainfall will spread to the north. Then we go further out, and here's Gordon. Tropical Depression Gordon. We've been watching it really struggle the last few days. It became a tropical storm, got a name, and it's just been struggling, moving very, very slow out there. 19.0 north, 46.8 west, winds of 30, moving west at 7. This thing is barely a tropical depression anymore. It is forecast to come back, though, into a tropical storm by Thursday and Friday, but by then it'll be moving out to sea. Gordon is probably going to be one of the least significant tropical cyclones of the year. Thankfully, it should remain weak and stay out at sea. We won't have to deal with it. And when we look at the satellite imagery, Gordon is right there. Really struggling, really far to the north. Like I said, a lot of these waves have been exiting further north than you would want to see for development, and that's part of the reason why we all busted very badly in this hurricane season. Is much less favorable than we thought. Starting off first week of July with a bang with a Category 5 hurricane, and then sometime in mid-July, late July, that switch just flipped and it never turned off again. So that doesn't mean we haven't had impacts. 3 hurricanes have hit the United States, so it only takes one, and we are not done yet. Another good wave leaving Africa here. And even back when I was a kid tracking hurricanes, even into the 1990s, 1998, for example, Hurricane George roared through the Caribbean. That was, September 20th, Hurricane Mitch, that was late October. Hurricane Ian devastated Fort Myers Beach, and that was 2022. That was September 28th. So we're not done yet, and it could be a backloaded season. There's Gordon on the right side of your screen looking pathetic. There's our developing system. Like I said, if and when it gets a name, it will be named Helene. Helene is one of the original names when they came out with the 6 name lists in 1979 to rotate every 6 years. This name list was first used in 1982, and the name Helene was on it. There was another Helene back in the 1950s. It was a very serious hurricane for North Carolina, but they didn't retire the name, and it got put on the original list, and we're still waiting for another Helene that's memorable enough to be taken off. I don't think this one, should it become Helene, will be, but we'll watch it carefully. Now, there's nothing down there yet, but we're going to start to watch this area here in the Western Caribbean because some of the models are indicating that over the next few days, there could be a disturbance that kind of tracks up in this general direction. Now, there's nothing there yet, like I said, but when you look at the satellite here, we still do have an active pattern. I mean, it's not as favorable as it could be. There's Gordon. Here's another wave running low. Here's another wave leaving Africa. There's our system off the southeast coast. There goes Hurricane Francine. So for a quote-unquote not too crazy season, it's not that inactive. We're still dealing with stuff, and we're going to have to watch very carefully. I don't see anything down there yet, but we'll watch it. Again, we've had 3 hurricanes hit the United States. Beryl in July, Debbie in August, Francine in September. So for a slower hurricane season thus far, it has been quite eventful. I'm Mike Nasa with the latest on the tropics. We'll continue to watch this system as it develops off the southeast coast and heads towards South Carolina.